Okay, this is one for Andrew. Part of decentralisation is getting people to and from Sydney quickly. A fast train would be great. Do they have anything in the wings for this?
Maybe I'm not good at sharing.
Well, we're doing a study into fast rail to a number of different areas at the moment, including the Central West, so Orange to Parks. I think it's about $8 million which has been set aside for that. And that will look at ways in which we can improve that line. And obviously the fast rail is going to happen out here. You know, a lot of that rail was laid in the days of steam locos. So it's going to be a pretty big investment, but the idea is to have a look at what needs to be done, how much it will cost, and basically set out a blueprint for the future, which I think is really worthwhile. And I think also on that line, the western line from Orange out to Parks, we've got the inland rail, which is currently being constructed, which basically takes rail inland up the eastern seaboard. It needs to happen to get that western line upgraded, and just gives us another option about getting our produce to market. You can load freight on and off at Parks and basically take it anywhere you want. So I think it's a great option for us, and it's terrific that we've got that investment in doing a study on this area. So that's underway at the moment.
Thank you. So, Michelle, allegedly you're doing something with Lonely Planet. Are you able to tell us about it? Oh, okay. That's just a question that's come through.
Oh, we're listed in Lonely Planet.
Ah. Maybe you should be doing something more with them. Okay. James, what do you think is the value of working in a co-working startup hub like upstairs?
I would say that the value in working in a co-working space is that it's a bit of a melting pot for people from different backgrounds, different ideas, different experiences and skill sets. And when you throw all that together, in my experience, it's a really great and innovative way to solve problems. So I think, you know, aside from the obvious in networking and developing new relationships, it's also really useful for overcoming problems, and also as a bit of a support network. If you start your own business, you're on your own typically, and you can, you know, lean on the person next to you for a bit of support in those tough days, or, you know, sharing the wins of others and yourself. So there's plenty of benefits for working in co-working.
Thank you. This is for everybody could probably answer this one. What is the key lesson you've learned setting up your business? I'll start down this end and just pass the microphone on.
Have a plan, measure, and reassess on a regular basis.
I'd say trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not.
Mine's probably similar to that. If we'd listened to everybody that said no, or rejected our idea, and that, I don't think we would be where we are. So really, the people that are saying no, I would want to double check on what basis they were deciding that it was a no, whether it's just advice, that type of thing. So keep an eye on ones to go, yep, thanks for your advice, but we'll keep doing our due diligence on which way we're heading.
Absolutely true. If somebody says no to your idea, you can guarantee you're on the right track. Just do it. Okay? That's what I've learned.
Well, a couple of years out of uni, when I said I lived in Hong Kong, my brothers and I decided that we'd just go and set up a business in Asia. And I literally packed a duffel bag. My mum even made me pack an iron in there, and I just went to Hong Kong. And I had no idea about the business that I was going into. But we had a lot of energy and a lot of passion. So I guess my advice would be have a crack, number one, and don't be daunted. And maybe sometimes ignorance is bliss, and we've probably seen that today. Some of you folks didn't know what you were getting into. But the other thing is also make sure you've got the skill sets behind you. And my brothers were both really good I think they're trained, both are trained in accounting. And we set up an office in Hong Kong and we set up an office in Singapore. And I thank the Lord that those guys knew the numbers, and that made all of the difference to us. So have some good skills behind you and know your limitations. I knew I was not any good at numbers, so I left that to them. But, you know, hopefully I brought some skills in some other areas which helped as well. So know your limitations, but have the right skill set, I think, is really important, but particularly the numbers when you're starting up.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew there. It's the most boring part of any job is doing the invoicing. But obviously, you know, you're not going to be able to do much if you haven't got cash flow. That's not my point. My point was just going to be, I don't know, in the world of startups, there's a lot of statistics about how they fail, and you should fail fast. So we like to say crash or crash through, which has worked for us in the past. Yeah, basically get started.
Thank you, great answers. A lot of businesses are often run by the family or owned by a husband and wife. How do you manage being business partners and life partners? Pete's not here to answer, but anyway.
Someone's going to have Pete's number, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy this answer, anyone that knows Pete knows. How do we operate? I think having an appreciation for good, strong debate, but knowing when the other is right or that they have the expertise in that. I think it's so important to have a really robust debate about business. I think it's also about finding downtime and about finding time to be present with your children and things like that. So I think there's an element of compartmentalisation, and there's this whole story around work-life balance, and I'm in the HR space and I get to talk about those kind of things, but I actually think the story is actually moving towards prioritising, because if I look at my own life and what we've built in that is that it's not actually just deciding that it's work-life balance where you turn up at 4 o'clock and you go and be a mum, etc. It's about prioritising what needs to happen at what time, and people will be getting answers and emails and that type of thing at all hours of the day and night, because that's when it's right for me to work. And the flexibility of the style of manufacturing business Pete and I have created out there is that if we have huge orders coming in and all staff have gone home, and that is that there is no option of failing. We will put the kids to bed and we will go back up and we'll turn that canning line on and produce, you know, whatever we need to make sure it meets those deadlines and that the next day. So I think working together as a couple is knowing who has what strengths, having robust debate, but knowing that there's a line, and finding that right time to set priorities, whether it's family time, whether it's business time, whether it's just time to switch off. So that's my advice. That's how Pete and I run. And then if there's any sort of voting mechanism, I get to win.
Oh, it's such a shame Pete's not here. Okay, next question. How do you get private companies and manufacturers to move to the regions? I'm assuming this is for Andrew, but I'll take it that a few other panelists can probably answer that as well.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to hear what these other wonderful panelists had to say on it. Well, I think there are two things. Firstly, I think you've got to get the settings right in terms of making an area attractive. So obviously, you know, you've got to have jobs, because when people are thinking of moving, where am I going to work? If they've got kids, where are the kids going to go to school? So if you can get those, that basic, and health facilities as well, I have to say, is the other big one. You've got to have those basics in place. Fortunately, this area ticks all of those boxes in terms of we have a diverse economic base. Our schools, whatever you want, you can find it here in terms of schooling, which is really important. And of course, we've got world-class health facilities. The thing that I'm looking at the moment, and we're actually doing some survey work with businesses currently, is what else do businesses want and need to make the move? And is it a financial incentive to help with? Is it a training incentive? Is it, you know, do they need help with physical fit outs? What is it that business is actually looking for? And that's a process we're literally going through at the moment to formulate more policy. And on the private enterprise side at the moment, I'm looking at incentives and what levers we can pull in that regard. But yeah, James, tell us.
Well, I don't deal so much with enterprises in the startup space, but I guess one observation to draw from that is just that, you know, for us, it's about demonstrating capabilities and resources and things that are here, because, you know, Bathurst, Orange, Dubbo, they've all got great resources, there's great people there. It's just about trying to demonstrate that to people from outside the region. And from a startup's perspective, you've got $100, which is going to last you 4 days, or it's going to last you 8 days in Bathurst, or Orange. So, you know, trying to get that message across and advocate for that in the cities is the challenge. Yeah.
Fast broadband. Well, fast broadband was also something that a lot of city companies were arguing about that we didn't have, but we've got that now, so they can't use that as an excuse anymore.
I was like, how long have I got on this topic, Steve?
Oh, bet.
I'm taking my brewery hat off here, but this is a great opportunity with Mr. G here sitting in the room. Look, I think it's no different to similarities around HR and attracting people to your businesses to work in that, is that we're all motivated by different things, and I don't think that there is going to be one, you know, one policy that's going to suit all different businesses that have the motivation to move out here to the region. And my wish list for you would be, you know, there's obviously obstacles there could be interest, that they're motivated by different things, and whether a business can actually assess that, you know, we would move to the regions, but we need less of this and more of that. And, you know, life, look what we've just been through, is about being agile and flexible, and I think that's what needs to be built in, is that the framework is there that actually then shoots out the end goal, and it doesn't mean that our journeys are all the same, you know, to get there.
Ladies, do you want to answer that one as well, or you? Otherwise, I've got a question for Pip. So, how did you find a reliable postage freight service for your online deliveries?
Shipping's always really tricky for any business, but we use a variety of AusPost, Fastway, which have now changed to Army. Yeah, and they're all fabulous. I think in business, and that's probably why I'm not super great, is that you can get really caught up in the nitty-gritty of like every single sale and every single dollar. But I think you've got to win some to lose some, and we are in, you know, people are like, just before I came here, they're like, could you please express post that to Brisbane? I'm like, sure, but it's not going to work, like it won't be any quicker. I think you've got to win some and lose some with everything, and I think to get the volume up is where you start winning more, and it doesn't matter as much. But yeah, creating good relationships with shipping with the postal people is so valuable, because when you need a favour, and the same with paying accounts on time, dealing with suppliers, if you're a good person, people will do good things for you when you call upon it.
Excellent. Thank you. Michelle, you mentioned Brad Sugars as your mentor. At what stage do you recommend getting a mentor, and do you believe it's a good financial investment?
Yes, I started a relationship with a business coach back when I had owned Anything Grows, before we purchased Heifer Station, Mark Bloom. And I would see him on a regular fortnightly basis, because it was the first time I had ran my own business, and I thought I knew more than Philip, and I wasn't going to listen to his advice. So we had to get someone independent involved. So I had 28 years in the Attorney General's Department, working in courts, and then went into Anything Grows. And he was a great mentor in that, you know, I could go and talk, and he would set goals for me, and I would achieve those, and he'd ask the difficult questions and things that I hadn't thought about. And now, and Philip had been in business, had real estate offices for about 25 years, Ray White. So he's business minded, and I guess we always had business discussions around the dining room table. So business has been in our family and family discussions for many years. Philip and I still use Mark Bloom, Action Coach, when we have a difficult decision to make. We don't go and see him on a regular basis, but when we come to a T intersection and we want to brainstorm someone with an independent view, someone who isn't personally attached to the business to help us make a decision, we will go and make an appointment, and it may take 3 to 4 sessions to brainstorm